What is up? Welcome to the American Peloton. I am Jonathan Crane. I'm a mediocre Cat 2 cyclist out of Birmingham, Alabama.
And I'm Ben, head coach at Skyway Cycling and team director at Skyway, presented by Domestique Coffee. We're
So the
back.
season, we're back. We're racing. I've done 3 Omnium weekends already, and it's like barely March. Things are rolling this season. I guess the first thing we need to talk about is we got some big team announcements, one of which we already knew about last time, but we were not allowed to talk about it. So I want to go ahead and start there, but that is Rainstorm Racing. That team is basically a combination of what was American Cycling Group and Texas Roadhouse.
So Texas Roadhouse, their elite team is now kind of merging with that American Cycling Group. And full stop, on paper, this might be the strongest team going into 2024.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, just like,
American was already in the conversation for like one of the best seasons last year. And then
mhm.
Texas Roadhouse kind of had a breakout season for that squad with Arthur Fergus getting a lot of results. Wasn't it him that had a bunch of good stuff last year? I believe so.
Yeah, Fergus
Fergus.
won solo at Lagrange.
Yeah.
He was like top 5 at Crybaby Hill, I want to
Yeah.
say. He was in that final break for sure. Yeah, ton of
We
good results from him.
They had good rides at NCL too. They were
They
they
did.
were the team that cracked that format better than anybody else, I think, other
Yeah,
than the institutional NCL teams.
yeah, absolutely. They're the ones that figured it out, which we kind of thought because they have a lot of track racers on their program. But
Yeah.
like just looking down the roster, I'm going to read it off because it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, hit
So
it.
Fergus Arthur, then you have Aaron Beebe, Zach Barron, Jamie Castaneda, Brian Gomez coming over from Miami Knights, Michael Hernandez, who's a national champion, Eli House, Jordan Para, Kyle Perry, Alfredo Rodriguez, also coming from Miami Knights, Tim Smith, and then closing out with Danny Summerhill, who was your ACG champion. Or I'm sorry,
Eight
ACC champion.
ACC champion on ACG. Too many 3-letter
Yeah.
acronyms, but yeah, that team. I guess no women's team there is something to note.
Hmm.
Are Do we know if they're doing NCL? Have we heard any
They
news on
are.
that? Okay,
They
they
are.
are.
So
I wonder what
NCL,
women's program they'll be paired with.
I don't know. NCL did release the teams that are going to be there. Um, Now, when they released it, they did say Texas Roadhouse.
Hmm.
So, but that was pre-merger, so I don't know if
Right.
that's going to be swapped over to Rainstorm
I'm sure
or
that's
if
got to be
that's
Rain. Or
yeah,
or you think because so there is a Texas Roadhouse team, but it's not their
yeah,
elite team. That's like their master's program, and I think Rasan Bahati is racing for that, and Matt
yep,
Winstead, who we've had on the show. So there will still be a Texas Roadhouse, but rather than it being in the past where there was kind of like Texas Roadhouse Elite Masters Development, there were like different squads under that one umbrella. The
yep,
uh the top level is Rainstorm, which is an energy drink, I guess. I've seen it at gas stations. I haven't ripped
yep.
into one. It has 0 sugar, which seems like a weird choice. I don't know. As a cyclist, I want a lot of sugar.
I don't know. As somebody who's in the car 6 hours a day, a zero sugar energy drink might be pretty nice.
Okay,
But
so you hit
so
one
for
and
me,
let
it's a
us know.
lifestyle
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll have to crack into one. Um, but I'm looking at like let's say it is the Masters team that is doing NCL. Rassam Bahati's there. They would be competitive, but I think if the actual Rainstorm squad wasn't doing the NCL races, that would be a big mistake, I think. Because I'm looking
yeah.
at this and I'm looking at like Danny Summerhill, points leader for ACC, like can do those lap to lap sprints. Fergus, like all these guys can roll strong brakes and figured out the formula.
Hmm.
And then you have Alfredo and Brian Gomez, who were racing those NCL races on an NCL endemic team.
I would
So
be
I can't imagine they wouldn't.
sure. I would be kind of interested to see though what some veterans like Bahati and Matt Winstead could do. Matt Winstead had a really
Yeah.
good ride at NCL Atlanta. He was up there getting in moves, scoring points. So I wouldn't put it past him. But yeah, if Rainstorm does NCL, that might be the team that can like challenge the NCL institutional teams.
Yeah,
Which
for sure.
I guess we should go ahead and mention. That may be like the only news we've got on NCL. We haven't heard any race dates, and we've seen a few of the NCL riders around. We raced Auburn Cycling Classic. Goosens from the new Atlanta team was out there.
Hmm.
Our our own Zach Threet had a heads up sprint with him in the crit. But yeah, he was on in niche Speed Club kit still. It seems like all their guys. Same thing with Clever was at CBR. Will
Yeah.
Harden was at Swamp Classic. Seems like nobody's gotten kit yet, and they maybe don't fully have it together. Still no word on broadcasts in the post GCN era.
No. No word on bike sponsors or bikes at all from them
Right, because
either.
they lost Factor
They
and
did.
Legion
That
picked
that
up
we know for
Factor.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
we know that for sure. So it's kind of like maybe NCL is just like holding everything to their chest, but it's also March, and normally in the cycling world, you kind of know things by January.
sure.
So that's sending some alarm bells for NCL.
Right. Well, I mean, this show started last year with us talking about NCL around this time, maybe late January, early February, and saying like,
Hmm.
how are they going to pull this off in 1 year? And they had some delays, they had some things they moved around, but they did pull it off. My guess would be rather than try and have a race super early like they did last year, they'll push all three much closer together and toward the end of the season. And it does seem like the deeper we get into the season, there are more holes in the calendar, kind of like late summer, other than, especially if you're willing to just skip one of the like Intelli or Toad or one of the like week long crit series. That's
Yeah.
um that's where there's the most room on the calendar.
Yeah, for sure. That kind of July, August, September block is usually pretty open, except for those two like 10 stage race blocks. So if teams aren't doing that, then there's opportunity. But we do know that ACC has days at both Toad and Intelli this year. So a lot of these big teams that are trying to do both,
Mm-hmm.
you know, may, they have to kind of pick and choose there.
Yeah, I wonder again, like last year we didn't see as many showdowns of everybody as we wanted to because everything was so spread out. We might
Hmm.
see that again, but I don't know. Ear to the ground for NCL. Interested to see what the Atlanta team does in the NCL races. Interested to see where those broadcasts land this year. But all things considered, we were skeptical this time last year, and I enjoyed NCL Atlanta, like both being there and watching the race online. It was a good watch. It was an interesting product. I'm not sure I want that to be like the only thing that exists in cycling, but as a little spice that's sprinkled on the season, I like it. And seeing those teams compete in the other races was awesome, especially on the women's side. That's making the racing so much more competitive. I guess
Yeah.
we can mention on the women's side while we're talking about it. You brought this to my attention. 2024 and Avolo are teaming up to do a women's junior team, which is cool.
It's pretty awesome. I think that kind of makes sense for Avolo, having a women's division to what Avolo is already doing with their U23 men. Kristen Armstrong is going to be sort of heading up this development program and making sure it's the girls have everything they need and developing through her KX3 coaching company. Also, Katie Keogh, the cyclocross racer, is also part of the performance management side of it. So I'm really excited to see what this junior team can do, if they're doing more road race, stage race crits, or if they're going to send some folks out to Europe, because I know Avolo U23 men are primarily all in Europe now. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited to see what this looks like this year.
Yeah, that's cool because it's a tough ecosystem. I mean, it's tough for men right now. We've seen a lot of good racers that are younger, trying to kind of find their way through that pathway from like an Avolo level team to a national level team. I'll talk about that some in a video I've got coming out. We raced Mobile Cycling Classic last weekend, and Patton Sims, who was on Kelly Benefits until recently, freak of nature junior from the southeast. He's on Good Guys now, based out of New York City. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there for guys like that, finding teams and getting race days. And I think it's even more challenging for women. I think that's why we see so many women come to the sport as adults.
Speaking of good guys, they seem to be kind of leveling up this year.
Are
Um,
they?
they have like a hedge fund backing them, or like a bank is sponsoring them, something like that.
Mm.
So maybe with bringing on Patton Sims, maybe they're trying to kind of expand their program and be more of a East Coast, if not national team. So
I, I
we'll
think
see.
that's always been their goal. Like they were trying to step up to the USA Crits level and do that whole series the year that COVID shut everything down. And I
Yeah.
think they have had trouble finding their feet. Another new team and international one that's been announced is Ribble Rebellion. Ribble had a pro, and so Ribble Rebellion is calling itself a crit team. Disrupting the global crit circuit is their thing. I don't know what that means. That marketing speak sounds a little NCL to me in terms of being like, I don't know. Oh,
Right.
I don't know what that
Yeah.
means.
It's
What
like
I'm
what are you? It's
taking,
like what are you disrupting? You're showing up to
right,
bike races. That's not
disrupting it how,
disruption. Yeah.
right?
Right.
Seems like you're. I don't know. They got the tiny bar. They got the Ribble bike with the little bitty baby
It's
bars.
like
Maybe that's.
the
I don't know if that's disruptive or if that's par for the course on the global crit scene at this point. Actually,
I think
I'm
it's
on
par for the
38s.
course.
I, I'm
Yeah,
on
I'm on.
38s now, and they're not like I show up and my bars look wide comparatively. So
I say I'm on 38s. Hood's fully tucked in as far as it can go. The bikes do look like the 90s windbreakers, so
the bikes
maybe
look kind of
that's
sick.
disrupting. Is that like
This, yeah,
they're bright? Jokes aside, the team looks really strong.
yeah. What I'm taking from that is less about the disrupting part and more about the global crit circuit part, which makes me think they're going to come over here to America. Which
They are.
we
I
talked about that
Yeah. So
with
I
Mito
found,
Q.
yeah. So I did some digging. They're coming to America. The first race they're doing in America is going to be Redlands.
Okay,
So
wow.
a stage race, not a crit,
Yeah,
but
not a crit. There is a crit at it. Crit's the last
yeah,
day, and often it comes down to the crit.
yeah. And it's a technical crit. It's what, like 8 to 10 corner. It's a
Yeah. It's
pretty
pretty
well-known
tech.
crit.
It's a pretty long course and a pretty technical course. That's
Um,
the one where I want to say Corey Lockwood won the whole stage race by lapping up the crit.
yeah,
I know like the year Phil Guyman won, he had a epic battle with Francisco Mancebo on the crit. So there's a crit
yeah.
involved. Yeah, looking at
So
the roster, the guys that jump out to me are these top two. Tom Cousins, I know from following cyclocross, he's up there with your Cam Masons in terms of being like top level national cyclocross guy in the UK. And Ruben, I don't know how to say his last name, Apers,
I think it's
but
Apers.
yeah, he was on Lotto Sudal and Sport Vlaanderen Balawaza. Balawaz also has a cyclocross team. I don't think he raced for that, but yeah, he was on Sudal.
Yep.
So World Tour
And
guy.
uh, and Joe
Any,
Laverick, pretty strong as well.
yeah, yeah, and then I think a lot of these guys I don't know because they're coming from the Tour Series, which was sort of the UK equivalent to USA Crits or something. And I've watched YouTube videos from that, but I've never like followed the Tour Series. So, but yeah, looks like a strong team. I'm interested to see them come over here, and I think much like Mito Q, there's a chance they get over here and shock the world a little bit. Also, no
Yeah,
women's team, so again, is that disruptive? I don't know, or is
yeah.
that the norm?
That's yeah. Everything about them just seems pretty normal. I will say that kind of a broader topic on this is looking at like them having like this is a crit team and we're coming to America to race. They're also doing some of the crits in like Belgium and Ireland in the Tour Series, but have a focus in coming to the U.S. Then you also have, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The other Techers. You also have
Yeah.
like Techers that came over here and
Hmm.
raced, Mido Q that came over here and raced, and this is a talking point we've had forever. But Reddit, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Crits are legitimate. It's not just World Tour racing matters. Like I think having more international teams come over to the US and invest in teams that are only doing this style of racing, they don't legitimize it, like because it's already legitimate, but they
Hmm.
like elevate it. And I think the talking point online of oh parking lot crits, who cares? It's not real racing. They wouldn't stand a chance in Europe. That's starting those arguments are starting to fall flat.
Yeah, I had to just give up on that argument when so, someone was talking about how they would all get stomped in Europe, and I was like, well, Riley Sheehan's already gone to Europe and won a race, and they were like, oh, that doesn't count because that's a UCI 2.1 or
Right.
it's a dot pro, not a. And it was like, shut up. That's a race in Europe. It's like half World Tour teams. I don't know. Get out of here.
Right.
Yeah, like,
Right.
all right, dude, you nitpicked me to death. You win. My point is that, like, and we talked to Chloe Hosking about it too. Like, she started the year with a World Tour contract, came over here and raced, on not full form, but she admitted, like, those were hard races. And again, I'm not saying it's the Tour de France. I'm not saying any of these guys would beat Pogachar, but I'm saying it is, like, legitimate racing that people are interested in and has some level of global appeal, or else people wouldn't be coming over here to do it, creating teams to do
My
it.
my argument is that it's a totally separate thing. Like the physiology for one is not the physiology for the other entirely because
Right.
we saw it. Superman Lopez came over and raced some crits and got stomped,
Yeah.
and he's won Grand Tour stages.
Yeah.
So
It's a different thing.
it's different. It's entirely different, and they can be separate, and both can be legitimate, and both can be professional sports.
And it's a smaller pool, and it's a smaller sport, so maybe like the overall level isn't the same, but that's the same thing as like watching the track cycling at the Olympics and being like, Chris Hoy's not a real cyclist. He wouldn't win he wouldn't win on the Galibier stage. Like, yeah, no, he wouldn't. He does a different kind of racing. That's a stupid
Right,
argument.
right, right.
Anyway,
Like no one's watching Kieran guys and being like, okay, now you've got to race up, the Alp d'Huez. Like that's
sure.
different.
So while we're on stage racing and the differences here, apparently the early season is stage race season. So I guess let's talk the stage races that have happened. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start Tucson?
Yeah, let's start with Tucson. Or yeah, let's start with Tucson and then we'll backtrack to Valley of the Sun.
Okay, cool. So both of these are a little bit of a black box in terms of like we're piecing it together from YouTube videos, which like again, a stage race harder to film and produce content about than a crit. A crit you can just bop your GoPro on and you got it. You got to be a little bit more. It's harder to remember to turn the camera on and off, harder to tell the story, and then no streams. So I don't know. What have you got about Tucson?
Not a whole lot. Project Echelon kind of did what Project Echelon's expected to do, and they
Yeah.
won pretty easily with Brendan Rim.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my whole thing is, and I'm going to keep harping on this, is that you're supposed to be like a big national level race, and like, where's the coverage? It's on your like they have coverage on the Instagram, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine, but the Instagram has 1,400 followers, and it's kind of like pieced together like random rider interviews. Like it's not cohesive coverage or telling a story. And I think like if you're a national level race, inviting pro teams to come out, there should be a coverage plan put in
Sure.
place.
I guess if we're being real though, like Tucson is kind of the training camp race. It's like the race you go to
Yeah.
and do a training camp after. I think what like 4 or 5 teams did that.
Hmm.
Automatic did that, I know,
Yeah.
which I want to mention them because on both the women's and the men's side, this is the beginning of their year of like transitioning away from being like a full on crit team, I guess, and doing a little bit more varied of a calendar, a little bit more, not that they've never stage raced before, but doing a little more stage racing. And on the men's side, Gibbons in sixth, not not a terrible ride.
No.
Sixth of 115 on the men's side in the GC. Not someone I would
It's
have,
really strong.
yeah, pegged as a GC rider. Brendan Rim from Echelon pretty much ripped everyone else apart. Patrick Welsh from Above and Beyond Cancer. That's a team that like races at the national level a lot, but that's a really good result
Yeah.
from them.
We may have been
Um,
talking, was it last episode, or were we talking in private about how Above and Beyond Cancer may have like a little bit of a level up this year?
yeah, I think we were talking about that at team camp, like off mic,
Yeah. So that's look out for them because I think they're gonna level up a little bit this year.
for sure. And on the women's side, automatic, Kim Stoveld in seventh, a rider we talked about a lot early on. We saw the potential there, and she's been delivering. And this is the first stage race. May not be her first stage race, but the first like big stage race we cover that I looked at the results and saw her name. So solid result for
Yeah.
her. Women's side, Virginia Blue Ridge, pretty dominant, winning by 39 seconds, which in a race like this is actually a pretty big gap. Sophia Arola, and then CCB in second with Cecile Lejeune and Skyline in third, which I thought Skyline was going away. Maybe I misunderstood. It is listed as Team Skyline Cadence. I don't know if they combined with a team or something like that.
Cadence is like a bike shop, Cadence Cyclery. That's like a
Okay,
presenting partner for them.
cool.
What Skyline did was they just added a like a U23 development team to what they were already doing.
Got it.
So that's the only change for Skyline as far as I'm aware.
And Holly Breck from DNA in fifth. I think that's the other like
No.
big team. Not everybody's out. It's early season on all these races, but we're looking to see who's doing good. I guess let's move to Valley of the Sun from that. What have you got from Valley of the Sun? As hard as Tucson was to follow, Valley of the Sun was even
It's
more of a black box.
Valley of the Sun might as well have happened in like the 70s where you had to wait for like Road Bike Action magazine to come out and get a result sheet.
Yeah,
Um, Not that I know anything about that, but my dad does.
yeah, just an
So
absolute black
um,
box of information.
it's like this thing, and before the stage race started, the Instagram had no posts at all. Like not even announcing the race, leading into it, nothing until day one of the race. The only reason, like I think it got a pretty big attendance, especially on the junior side, is because it's part of the new USA Cycling like junior cup, I believe,
Hmm.
which I fully support a junior cup. I can explain later. I think that's a lot of the reason why it got a lot of junior attention. But if you
Yeah,
look at the elite registrations, I think the biggest team was Team Six that was registered. I could be wrong, but
you mean the team with the most riders or the biggest names? Because
the biggest
CS,
CS Velo. But I mean, as far as like being like a Pro One team, it was like CS Velo and then like Team Six, pretty much as far as like overall size of team, budget wise or support wise.
sure. It looks like so they were making these posts of the general classification and going up through here, top 10 on GC every day, going to the Instagram. They posted the women's GC after stage three and never posted the men's. So, uh,
Sounds about right.
yeah, Virginia's Blue Ridge and with Emily Ehrlich and DNA Pro Cycling, Blue Ridge 1 and 2, DNA 3 and 4, but it looks like those were kind of the two big teams that were there on the women's side. Not a huge
Yep.
competition, but another like early season shakeout, a race that, I mean, really, other than the junior thing you're talking about, this is another one that just from being a race that is early in the season and has decent weather, that's really what people are going there for, and that's what I guess what they're banking on, and why they're not putting much stock into doing coverage and stuff. And I get like it's expensive to do, but you got to find some way, and making Instagram posts is pretty cheap, so
Yeah.
they tried, but it should be. We were also like sitting. We probably sit here for 30 minutes before the show and like talk about what we're going to get into, and kind of like make sure we got the results in front of us and all that kind of stuff, that we're not missing something big. And trying to find the results for both of these stage races, like they were out there, but they're like, you open some spreadsheet, you got to download it, and then you got to filter the pro category is like in the middle, and you open that, and it's all weird. Like it's just so hard to find all this stuff. And yeah, there needs to be some kind of repository of this information that makes it easy to digest.
I guess like they should just take the pro cycling stats model where it's like results and it's like top 10 and then you can expand to top 25 and then say full result.
Yeah,
Something like that would make
and
this
it
so
defaults
much
to
easier.
GC. This is the other thing, is
Hmm.
they're all their each one of these is their own website with their own little results thing. So you pull it up, and then you're like, is this the final stage results, or is this GC? Is this GC after stage one? Is this the results on, if they just all looked the same when you pulled them up, and they all defaulted
Well,
to the GC results, and you could work backwards from there, that would be helpful.
and literally it's so bad that like you and I do this all the time. Like we know
Yeah.
how to find these results. When Tucson was happening, you sent a thing to our team chat
Oh,
like,
yeah.
holy shit, this dude won the time trial. And
uh
then we were like, wait a second, that's the start list.
right.
And it's
And it's
like
like,
the start list shouldn't be with the results at all.
right. Yeah, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the start list should be, I don't know, just emailed to the participants, or yeah, in a totally different place for sure. It's like you had to add an extra filter to see the results or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonky. Going from that coverage though, that's the dark side. I think the light side is that CBR coverage. We talked about how they were doing streams, and it's not exactly a local series, but it's not a national series either. But they're doing good coverage on CBR, and they leveled up this year. They had Rasan Bahati on the mic calling it. Last year they were just getting the audio from the on-site announcer, but now they have announcers for the live stream. They got this drone coverage that's looking really good, and I was able to watch this on the trainer and follow it pretty well and be entertained. There's good live chat with it. I like that they're doing these straight to YouTube, because it's already where I'm going when I'm on the trainer for the most
Hmm.
part, to see to find some cycling content. It's also got like a lot of good live functionality where they can stream it on here live, and then it's easy to get back to the live stream, unlike some of the other some of the other crits use like a live player that embeds into their website, but it's not on a Vimeo or a YouTube or somewhere that's easily searchable. And it also doesn't have the live chat function, which I don't know. I get that maybe they don't want to have to moderate a chat, but again, YouTube has some tools at scale that like are good for this stuff, and I don't get why other series or whatever. I guess some of them want to keep the content close to their vest, but it seems to me like YouTube has a model where you you can drop your own ads in there if you want to, and on top of that, if you allow YouTube to do monetization, if you get enough views, you're going to make something off of it. Not that I think Ray Mars is like making a mint off of doing these, but it can make it worth your while if you're getting a big enough base and it's easy for people to find. And these look good.
Yeah.
They're easy to follow.
I mean, it's literally a drone, and having that audio feed. A drone is like, if you want a good drone, you're looking at $1,200 these days.
Hmm.
And then you fly it and you do an audio feed. A microphone is like $50 off Amazon for an audio feed to it, and then you just stream it,
So
and that's not a whole lot of money.
they've got a couple of these stationary cameras. I think this is where we've talked about it on this show before that like I think the technology is going to keep getting better and it's going to get cheaper to produce something that's watchable, not necessarily like
Yeah.
ESPN level coverage. And I think
Hmm.
that's what this is because they've got
Agreed.
see this is a stationary camera. There's not a cameraman here. And I would bet this is like a DJI Action or a GoPro that can live stream something like that that they just
Hmm.
set up, hit go and it's live streaming. They're live streaming that to like a private Twitch, and then they're pulling all that in on to OBS. Same thing with this Finish camera. So a cost that like a lot of the races are incurring, and these are all great productions. Like the ACC races have are a level up from this in terms of production, but they have like a full like a cameraman who is panning around the corners, and this is
Yep.
a way around that. Um, you know, it just seems like uh yeah, the gap, if I don't stand here and point out the differences between this coverage and ACC coverage, once you notice that this camera is not panning, you're like, "Oh yeah, it is a little better when I watch ACC," but it's not light years of difference. And I bet this
Right.
is significantly cheaper to produce. And I think that's going to continue to
Absolutely.
happen. So, big ups to Ray Mars. To get into the specifics of this race, that is Corey Lockwood, who's moved over to Miami, Legion Miami, not NCL Miami this year. He was doing some donkey work in this race. A team I haven't heard much of or seen much of called iSpeed was out here, and they
Hmm.
were doing a lot. One of their riders crossed wheels with Corey and crashed out, and then got back in the race and was off the front again. So yeah, there was a
It's pretty
I,
strong.
yeah. I wanted. Did you see the story? Clever Martinez had a story of that crash. Did you see that on Instagram?
I missed it. I missed
I
it.
was trying to pull it up for this, but it expired and went away. Basically, the
Wow.
iSpeed rider looked back. He was, looking backwards to see where people were. Someone in front of him jumped, and Corey crossed his wheel to try and get to the guy who was jumping. And Corey was
Okay.
getting a lot of flack in the comments. I've been critical of Corey in the past. He does have me blocked on Instagram, but I actually think this one was not his fault. You got to look forward. If anyone's wheel
Yep.
is close to your front wheel, you can't turn all the way around. And Corey did, move across him to try and get to this wheel, but like you got to protect your front wheel. It wasn't a malicious move, and yeah, you just got to be watching. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Corey Lockwood right there. Going, we're looking at the live stream as we're doing the show. Corey Lockwood was ripping. I think he's absolutely on one. It stands. I'll be interested to see if he is as good in the more technical crits. These CBR races are really, really wide courses, really, really wide corners, and that kind of goes to his skill set of being able to just lock in and drill power. I
Yep.
wonder if he will be as good in the races where it's a little harder to move around and a little harder to put power down the whole time, and you got to be a little spikier. Um, but he's certainly going good.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. As long as the thing about crits is the closer you are to the front, the smoother the effort is. So as long as he's strong enough, and my Legion Miami is strong enough to keep him towards the front, then he'll be able to keep that smooth effort for a while. I think the courses like Crybaby Hill, where you are having to do 800 watts for 30 seconds and then kind of come down,
Yeah,
he'll struggle there. But I think a flatter crit, even if it is more technical, I think as long as he's towards the front, will be able to keep it smooth and make it hard.
yeah. I really worry. I not worry, but wonder about the width of the road more than the up and down of the parkour because these it's like in some races, especially East Coast stuff, the road is narrow enough that it's completely filled side to side with riders. But in these CBRs, you're never like if you want to pull out to the side and go up to the front, you can at any moment. It's never just totally blocked curb to curb in front of you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. So how this race played out is Legion was trying to get the win for, sorry, not Legion, Blazers was looking to set Dante up for the win. He kind of botched the last corner, which I feel for him. I kind of did the same thing in Mobile, coming off Emil Abraham's wheel. I kind of messed it up, left a little gap, and got jumped in the finish, but hey, Jonathan jumping in from the future here. I realized as I was editing this, I had watched this race on the trainer and never actually stayed with it long enough to see the photo finish. It came down to a really, really close photo finish with Dante there, and the announcers were kind of speculating on it as I ended my trainer ride, and same with this broadcast. We kind of pulled away from it. Dante actually did get this sprint, and like I said, there's a good breakdown of it on Justin Williams' Instagram, so if you want to see the sprint in detail, go over there. It follows the drone shot all the way through, but Dante did get it. Don't at me. Clever Martinez also looking good. Coming off of a lot of track racing, he was out here just like preem hunting. So yeah, that's CBR. Not a huge national race, but a race with good coverage. So I like to mention it for sure. I need to get that rider's name who won, which I did look on the CBR or LA Crits website, and all of the results posted are from last year. Or maybe I'm just an idiot and I'm missing it, but I wasn't seeing results from that. That was CBR number 2 for 24.
Okay.
That was the first one that I watched.
So I've not been, admittedly, not caught up on the CBR races. So I was.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, no worries.
Talking points on that, as we mentioned, Blazers, comparing Legion to Blazers this year, kind of on an even footing, maybe even leaning a little bit towards Blazers. So I'm excited to kind of see what they're able to do this year, and maybe we get some more competitive racing. Not that it wasn't competitive, but more between the Legion squads, more even lead outs, more aggressive racing between the two of them versus Legion kind of taking the helm there and then letting Blazers get third, fourth, or fifth.
Yeah, I think this year definitely does lean a little bit more Blazers than Legion. I feel like we had some other Swamp. I guess I just wanted to talk quickly about Swamp since I was there. I had a bad day, but our team had a really good weekend. I got crashed out in the feed zone. Hectic race. All of the elite juniors and collegiate A's were combined into our field, so over 100 guys, many of them juniors, and pretty hectic course. People ping-ponging off each other everywhere, just got crossed up. Anyway, Will Harden from Miami Knights, former guest of this show, won the overall, and he's got a good video of that over on NorCal. You can see some of our guys mixing it up in the crit. I think Zach was like 7th in that crit finish or something, but Taylor Warren from CS Velo. And I guess we should have mentioned CS Velo won Valley of the Sun. I can't remember if we said that, but men's side they did win. Not. And Taylor Warren from CS Velo got 2nd in the Omnium. This is the problem though with like when we were doing the tier ranking at the end of last season, and I felt like I was shortchanging CS Velo a lot. I was like, I know they won something that I'm not remembering, and it was Valley of the Sun last year, and it's because we got to go digging so much to find Valley of the Sun stuff that.
And it's so early in the year that it's a lot of recency bias too. Like
totally,
in October, I can't tell you who won Tucson Bicycle Classic.
Right.
Can't.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit myself with the like Men in Black pin immediately after this episode is over. Right. But yeah, CS Velo also 2nd, which Swamp, another like not a big race, not a national race, no streams or anything, but by virtue of being a race that you can It's in Florida. It's in Gainesville, so a place that is pretty warm this early in the year. That one's in the middle of February. A race that people from colder climates can travel to, get a race in the legs, and then do a training camp, which is exactly what Will Harden did. And he was to the NCL not having their bikes yet point. Will was racing on his cyclocross bike, so no NCL team bike reveal there. He was sprinting on a cross bike, and then he did the TT on his on I believe mostly his setup from Echelon. He had some slippery looking stuff. Maybe it was a personal TT bike, but yeah, he had a TT
I
bike
think
that
it
was.
it was a personal TT bike, and
I think
he
he had
was racing like an
Echelon.
all blacked out. Yeah,
He had Echelon kit for the TT. I think I talked to him before that. He definitely had some super aero bits and bobs that were from Echelon. Yeah, he was guest racing for Kingdom Racing, which is a Florida based team, and they just did all black, I think, Pedal Mafia kits.
yeah. We do know NCL is going to be on Primal kits this year, so they
Oh,
might have
yes.
some like dinosaur graphics and like
Yeah.
you know triple
Oh,
XL
man.
baggy jerseys.
This is something I wanted to talk about in a previous episode, and I forgot. Uh, yes, the Primal connection. So, NCL is trying to have all of these geographically based teams with a team name that is not necessarily a title sponsor. Like Knights is not a company, the way that Rainstorm is an energy drink. Uh, so my pitch is that all of the NCL teams they should update to being the primal. Like they need to have like Miami should be the robotic frogs and have the jersey with the metallic frog clinging on the seat post and like some of the classic primal wear graphics. And my other okay, this is my big one. We got an Atlanta team now. We should have a Birmingham team, which is the Birmingham Bolts, which was the name of our XFL team, but the bolts are like they're like titanium water cage bolts, and it's like a like metallic font. So
There we
that's my
go.
pitch. We can capitalize on some XFL merch nostalgia, and I feel like that syncs up with Primal Wear in some kind of way, similar heyday time period.
So bad. Actually, we'll just change the Skyway Domestique. It's going to be the Birmingham Bolts in 2025.
Nice. I will
We're
ride
just
for
gonna
that.
claim it. We're just gonna
Yeah,
claim it.
I'll take that. Let's anything else you got? I mean, it's early days for the season. We're also going to try to keep these shorter. We always say we're going to try to and then we go too long. I see the clock nearing the 45-minute
Okay.
mark.
All right. I have a final thought.
Okay, hit it.
And okay, USA Juniors Cups. I have two things to say about it. The first is if your race is going to be a USA Juniors Cup race, the juniors need to have a separate start and finish than the Pro 1, 2, 3.
Agree. As someone who has been in these races where they keep combining the junior field into our field, it makes the race complicated. At the Auburn Cycling Classic, they combined the juniors. Yeah, I think it was just juniors. Collegiate did get their own there, but it was elite juniors with Pro 1, 2s. Maybe we did race with collegiate there. I can't remember what the combo was, but what ended up happening is a break in the road race got up the road with one person from the Pro 1, 2 and one person from the junior, and they just ripped it. And like the the people controlling the front were not from the Pro 1, 2. They were basically blocking the road. It just created like a stupid dynamic. And also, I made the second chase group, and Zach won the sprint from that group, which got a second. I feel like in a scenario where that other solo rider was not with someone from another race, someone scored separately, we would have caught those two, and then we would have been racing for the win. It just makes the racing dynamic weird.
I just think so, like, right. And that's my gripe because the purpose of the USA Juniors Cup is supposed to be like an objective Devo pipeline for like the national team.
And
And
I get
so,
combining fields when you don't have numbers. When it's like we don't want
yeah,
to send four juniors out there for a 70-mile road race, but the ones I've done that have been combined, it's been like each field that's combined is a minimum of, I don't know, 25 people. Some of them are 50-person fields that are getting combined with others, and it's like, I don't know, 50 people is a good road race. That's a good size.
yeah, right. And so, like, this is the point: is that USA Junior Cup is supposed to be a development pipeline into U23 national team, like Junior Roubaix, whatever. And if you combine fields, what you're doing is allowing a Pro 123 rider, a collegiate rider to impact the race dynamics for a junior race where those top level juniors are going to be, there are not collegiate A riders and Pro 123 grown men.
Right. The junior
Also,
race ends up being who is best at motor pacing off of a Pro 1 rider, you know?
correct. And which like that makes that junior really strong. That's fine. That doesn't make them tactically good or any of the other things. They're like able to like compete with their peers, which is the whole point.
Right.
That being said, I fully support the USA Juniors Cup because for too long, development pipeline into the national team has been political. It's been, oh, well, I know that guy, or that guy rides for this team or this company, so we're going to bring him in over to Junior Roubaix. And I think
Totally.
and it used to be back in the 90s like an objective, like this is the pro road circuit. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to get on a pro team or go to the national team, you have to be in the top 10 or 15 in the standings for this to even be considered for that. And that's how it should be. And so for me, like the junior development, junior cup thing is perfect for that. They just need to have separate starts. Like you and I, as grown men, should not be able to affect their race at all.
Yeah.
That's my only thing on that.
Yeah, it muddies the water. And I get, so I do think like making it more objective, and this is good. We got a request. Someone was talking to me at Swamp about wanting us to do a full junior show, which I have mulled over, and what I've come to is like I don't have enough of a take on it to do a full junior show, and I don't want to talk about stuff just to talk about it. But we'll do, we got junior corner here at the end, so hopefully this is enough to like wet the whistle of that person. Um, yeah, having an objective, like I see that people, good juniors from our area, are less connected than good juniors from somewhere that's more of a cycling mecca like a Boulder or something. It's much harder for them to break in when they're not, you know, getting noticed on the group ride or whatever. Um, I don't know how objective, how much it changes it to have a junior cup, because I think it's still going to be easier to get on the right team, and then the right team is still going to be able to dominate those events, but it's like a step in the right direction. I mean, it's always going to be hard as an individual rider racing against, like, uh, going back to the Patton Sims example, he's probably the strongest, one of the strongest riders, I would say, at Mobile, but he got shut out of the Omnium because we had a really good team that was working really well together, and so did NGCA, and yeah, he got shut out of the Omnium, shut out of any podiums. So I could see that happening to a junior who is very strong but doesn't make it onto the right junior squad.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can't control for everything, but
Totally.
I
This is
think
a
like
positive step.
yeah, it's a positive step, and even like if you are like a privateer junior, and you've got the EF kids, and you've got the DDP kids and hot tubes or whatever, and you're like the next guy in that line racing by
Mm.
yourself, the guy from hot tubes is gonna
It's
notice
gonna
you,
be there, gonna see you. Yeah, that's true.
right? And so that helps. Like anything other than, oh, this guy rides for hot tubes and knows Vodders from the whatever. Okay, we're
Right.
gonna send him to Junior Roubaix. Like
Hmm.
anything that's anything that's more like, oh, he's top 10 at the Junior Cup. Okay, send him to
Yeah,
Junior Roubaix is better than the political shit.
totally. Yeah, totally agree there. And man, Hot Tubes has some kids. I have not caught any of their names, but I've seen some of those kids just like absolutely ripping it.
Oh,
Um,
they're strong. Yeah.
yeah, Hot Tubes always. Hot Tubes more than any. I feel like the other junior teams, when they have a kid that's just flying, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that kid around or whatever. I feel like, or I've seen that name before or whatever. But I feel like they are the team where I see a kid and it's like never seen this kid, never heard his name before, and he just did a massive ride. That's
Yep.
I don't know where they're getting these kids from, but Hot Tubes, Hot Tubes is on one.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, cool. I think we'll wrap it up there for this week. We got it in under an hour. See what's going on and hit another one in a couple of weeks. I'm honestly out the game for a second until I guess Sunny King is probably going to be my next thing. So, what other big races
Yeah.
are happening before Sunny King? Maybe we're in a
I
little
think
lull here, I think.
Sunny King is like the next one, and then Sunny King kind of kicks off Noonan, Speed Week, ACC, USA Crits, all of that. So it's kind of like that. You have all the preseason. March kind of like dips for like team camps and whatever, and then
Yeah.
April is going to be really, really, one after the other.
Yeah, that's when everything hits. Cool. Well, we will see you guys then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, subscribe Jonathan Crane on YouTube, or we're on all of the podcast platforms. You can listen while you're riding around. I'm Jonathan Crane.
I'm Ben. Peace.
See you guys later.